Coming up on The World Today. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden to present team as Trump allows transition. French lawmaker slams police evacuation of Paris migrant camp. Plus, the trial of men accused of murdering Saudi Arabian journalist Jamal Khashoggi 2018 has resumed in Turkey. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden will formally introduce the first people he has chosen for his cabinet later as the transition of power gathers pace. Many of the choices already announced are Mr. Biden's colleagues from his years in the Obama administration. John Kerry will be climate envoy, while foreign policy veteran Antony Blinken is nominated for Secretary of State. President Donald Trump has finally agreed that the transition process should start after weeks of wrangling.
3 weeks after the close of the U.S. election, Michigan certified their election results and Joe Biden officially won the state of Michigan. Moments after this announcement, GSA head Emily Murphy released the GSA funding to support the transition of the Biden administration. In a tweet, President Trump thanked Emily Murphy for her service and noted that his legal battles will continue. But he directly quoted, "Nevertheless, in the best interest of our country, I am recommending that Emily and her team do what needs to be done in regard to the initial protocols and have told my team to do the same." While the release of funds in cooperation from the Trump administration will support the transition, Americans are still suffering with an increased pandemic and state officials threatening to shut down economic engines like restaurants and shops.
I do understand that if it's a problem with the safety of the people, we should shut down at least the indoor. But only with the outdoor, especially now that is cold, is getting through the winter, and with the delivery and pickup, especially here in Midtown, that is not a residential area.
I believe there's a way to do it safely, and we shouldn't just shut them down.
I think if we take the measure like measuring the temperature and social distancing, we should be safe.
I think the staff of each restaurant can take proper care to sit people properly or check them at the entrance, like at the airports, wherever. So it needs to be reconsidered, I think.
The U.S. is less than 60 days from the new administration, and much work is still left to be done in the midst of major health and economic crises. From Washington, Maria Bird, Channel Television News.
U.S. and international affairs analyst Calvin Dark joins us now for more. Calvin, welcome to the program.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. So this is some development, but although the President Trump's legal challenges have so far proved fruitless, he's vowing to continue. It seems that he's somewhat run out of cards to play. So do you think reality is starting to set in?
I do think the political reality has started to set in. I don't think that President Trump's mind has been changed about how he feels about the election and how he's going to accept loss. I don't think that's changed. What has changed is his political allies realize that with none of his lawsuits even looking promising in the least, it would be irresponsible to not have the President-elect Biden at least access to get the transition up and running. Because let's remember that one of the fallouts or one of the observations from the 9/11 report was that because of the election debacle in Florida in 2000, it slowed the transition for George W. Bush, which affected how intelligence agencies communicated. So that political reality set in, but I wouldn't read too much into it. Donald Trump has not conceded, and I don't think he will.
Well, Joe Biden is expected to announce first names of his cabinet in just a few hours. We already have some names, which John Kerry will be named climate envoy, while foreign policy veteran Antony Blinken is nominated for Secretary of State. So, Calvin, what do you make of his team so far?
Well, I think it reflects experience. I think it also reflects who President-elect Biden is comfortable working with. He knows these folks. I also think that it is refreshing to see that we now have a president that wants to make sure that his cabinet and the leaders he selects reflect the country, not just in gender diversity and racial and ethnic diversity, but also in a diversity of thinking. So I think that that is what we can glean from these first nominations.
And well, Calvin, just one last question before we let you go here. Donald Trump did mention that he is going to continue his legal battles. What does that look like moving forward?
Well, unfortunately, it's going to look like a lot of the chaos we've seen over the last 4 years. Even the president's most ardent supporters are recognizing that none of the lawsuits have any merit, but that won't stop President Trump from continuing to try to convince 72 million people that the election was stolen from them, not because it helps our country, but that it helps build his platform for whatever's next. Could be a run in 2024, a television network, a political action committee where you could influence elections in 2 years. We don't know what that looks like, but we know that Donald Trump is focused on making sure that he is best positioned to do whatever that next step is, regardless of how it affects the country and Americans.
All right. Well, Calvin, thank you so much for joining us, and do stay safe out there.
Thank you.
In the meantime, former U.S. President Barack Obama says that there has been some damage done as a result of the Trump administration's foreign relation tactics that will take some time to mend. During an interview with the Washington Post, Mr. Obama also says that it will take some time before American allies can begin to trust the United States again.
There is going to be a lingering sense that America's still divided. You know, some of the shenanigans that are going on right now around the election, that is making the world question how reliable and steady the U.S. may be. The reversal of U.S. positions on things like the Iran deal and the Paris Accords are going to create some inhibitions in terms of entering into agreements, not always being certain whether or not they will be reversed by future administrations. So there's been some damage done that is going to take some time to dig ourselves out of. But there's no doubt that Joe's got the right people to do it, and I have every confidence they'll be able to do it. It just may not happen instantaneously.
Millions of Americans are already traveling home to celebrate Thanksgiving, despite warnings from health officials amid a significant wave of coronavirus cases and deaths. Thanksgiving, traditionally a large family get-together that rivals Christmas in size, is coming up on Thursday. 3 million people are reported to have already traveled through U.S. airports from Friday to Sunday, but the number is around half the usual figure for Thanksgiving travel.
I'm almost embarrassed that I'm caught on TV traveling because I know they've advised people not to, but I'm only here for a short time. My son's been here for 7 years and I miss him and I really wanted to see him. So I decided to come down and I have gloves on. I had my glasses on the train and my mask, except for right now.
I was kind of nervous this weekend, just and being in Penn Station today. I tried not to wait around and be inside too often, but I'm not too concerned.
I have my hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes in my bag. I've got my masks, which I'll probably switch out when I switch trains, and you know, I think it will definitely be smaller, but it won't lack the love of, you know, normal Thanksgiving in any other year. So in that regard, it won't be any different.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, the country's top infectious diseases expert, says people in airports are going to get the U.S. into even more trouble than the country is in right now. The 7-day rolling average number of U.S. COVID-19 deaths climbed for a 12th straight day, reaching 1,500 as of Monday. And coronavirus hospitalizations nationally have surged nearly 50% over the last 2 weeks. To date, COVID-19 has killed more than 257,000 Americans, with over 12 million testing positive since the pandemic began.
Projection is that if all goes well with the application for an EUA, as you mentioned, an emergency use authorization, according to the recommendation of the CDC, so that as you get into April and then May, you can really in earnest start to get the broader general population vaccinated. But it's going to start, if things go as planned, in December, middle to end of December. The data are real, and each day they come out from reliable sources. And what we see is that we're in a difficult situation, that we shouldn't throw up our hands in despair, because we really can do something about it if we adhere to these measures that are public health measures that we talk about. We don't have to inevitably accept a dire situation, because it is within our power to do something about it.
Our Washington, D.C. correspondent, Maria Bird, joins us now for more. Oh, I believe we're having some technical difficulties, so I do apologize for... Oh, I believe she's here now. Maria, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
So, Maria, some 1 million passengers have passed through airport security gates on Sunday, the highest number since March, though the numbers are nearly down 60% from the same time last year. But does it seem that people are ready to risk it all to spend time with family this year?
Well, unfortunately, many people have decided that they are going to move forward with being able to stay with family. They believe that their family is what's really most important, even despite the fact that we are in the midst of increasing record numbers of coronavirus cases since March. We are really in a point in time that it is critical that Americans really think about their choices. But as you stated, we are seeing record numbers of individuals hitting the airports, not at all abiding by what is being considered to be the guidelines by the CDC. And they are saying, and it's mostly the elderly people. I mean, many people are also saying, I'm older, I don't know if I'll be here the next holiday, so I want to ensure that I'm able to be with my family for this holiday.
Well, Maria, one would have expected that with the way health experts are hampering on Americans to stay home, some measures would have been put in place to ensure less people can travel. So why didn't officials put any measures in place?
Unfortunately, what we've seen over the last few months and throughout this pandemic, this has been really state operated. And so even though a state might have rules and regulations around the phases and the ability for individuals to not necessarily go from state to state and being able to return back to their state without quarantining, that would be a concerted effort amongst states, because there's not been federal guidelines to say, listen, we're not going to allow individuals to travel. This has all been state operated, as we know that there's states like Washington, Oregon, Chicago, Illinois, which have put in mandates that they're shutting things down. We know that New York is on the verge of shutting restaurants down. These are individual states taking that action. And so this is not a federal across the board mandate, which makes it very difficult as we talk about the airline industry and the ability of people to travel throughout the country.
All right. Well, Maria, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Still to come on The World Today. A Nigerian skater in the UK, Tinuke Oyederon, breaks 2 world records. We'll give you more details after the break. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. British Health Minister Matt Hancock says that test and trace cannot control coronavirus in the way that an effective system of mass testing can. Defending the performance of the heavily criticized contact tracing system, he says it's not to blame for the second lockdown, and it's important to look at the capabilities test and trace had given them for widespread community testing.
So I understand. I suppose just people watching at home. Other countries used test and trace, and again I'm going back to East Asia, as a way of avoiding lockdowns. We actually ended up having to have a second lockdown. Is that because the test and trace program didn't meet your expectations, or were there other factors?
I put very little weight on the idea that the test and trace program ahead of the second lockdown was functioning to reduce transmission enormously. And by the time of the second lockdown, it had already broken the chains of transmission hundreds of thousands of times. The problem was, as happened in so many other European countries, that the overall number of cases was going up. So I don't lay that at the door of test and trace at all, because they'd expanded unbelievably fast in the circumstances.
But why then did SAGE say in September that they thought test and trace was only having a marginal impact on controlling the transmission?
The International Air Transport Association says airlines are on course to lose a total $157 billion this year and next, further downgrading its industry outlook in response to a second wave of the coronavirus infections and shutdowns afflicting major markets. IATA, which in June had forecast $100 billion in losses for the two-year period, says it now projects a $118.5 billion deficit this year alone, and a further $38.7 billion deficit for 2021. The bleak outlook underscores challenges still facing the sector, despite upbeat news on development of COVID-19 vaccines, whose global deployment will continue throughout next year.
If the vaccine is available and if the efficiency of the vaccine is at the right level, if it is widely recognized by governments as a safe barrier, for virus transmission, it could be requested by some airlines to be vaccinated. There are two difficult points. The first one is the acceptance of the population to be vaccinated. We know that in many countries we have some difficulties to convince the population to be vaccinated. So it would prevent the people who are refusing to travel. So it's a difficulty that we will have to solve. And secondly, we think that the key issue that will have to be combined with vaccine is testing. And so the systematic testing is perhaps even more critical to reopen borders than the vaccine.
French police violently dismantled a makeshift migrant camp in the heart of Paris overnight, clashing with migrants and activists. Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin tweeted that some of the scenes were shocking and ordered the police to provide a full report on their actions. Dozens of small tents were removed from Place de la République, with occupants sometimes being tipped out by police. The homeless migrants say they are forced to live on the streets. Volunteers had joined the migrants, and linking arms, the crowd, several hundred strong, chanted, "Papers for all, accommodation for all," when police moved in. Police later used tear gas and chased people through the streets, using batons to hit some of them. The trial of the men accused of murdering Saudi Arabian journalist Jamal Khashoggi in Istanbul in 2018 has resumed in Turkey. 20 Saudi officials who are not in Turkey are being tried in absentia. A prominent critic of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, Mr. Khashoggi was killed by a team of Saudi agents inside the kingdom's consulate. Turkey says he was suffocated and then dismembered. The defendants include 2 former aides to the prince who deny involvement. Circus performer and skating teacher Tinuke Oyederon has been celebrated across the world for her stellar achievements while standing on 4 wheels. During the recent Guinness World Records Day, an annual celebration of record breaking, the professional skater broke 2 new records. Our London correspondent Juliana Olayinka got the chance to meet with her earlier this week.
Tinuke Oyederon, more commonly known as Tinuke's Orbit to her 12,500 social media followers, is a skating sensation who has just twirled her way into the Guinness World Records. The former circus performer's skills are so rare, she managed to bag not 1, but 2 of the famed accolades.
I did 2 Guinness World Records in one day. The first one was for as many cartwheels as I could do on roller skates in 1 minute, and the second one was as many spins on e-skates as I could do in 1 minute. I got 30 on the cartwheels and 70 on the spins.
For many of us, you go to one roller skating party when you're a child, you put the skates down, never to be seen again. How did it become a profession for you?
Yeah, so basically I started off as a dancer, a trained dancer, and then I went into a show called Starlight Express where they taught me how to roller skate. It was a very glitz, glam musical, and I did that for 2 years and skated literally every single day for 2 years. When I came back to London, I started up my own company teaching people how to roller skate, and performing literally worldwide at the moment. It's just amazing.
Fast forward to 2020, and she says that achieving both of these records has made her lockdown dreams a reality.
I've actually been teaching roller skating and stuff like that in lockdown as well, online, which has been amazing, and I've managed to be teaching people all over the world rather than just in London, and that has been such a blessing. I've seen people progress in my classes in Italy, literally as far as America as well. So I'm really excited to get some more classes started up in January. Please do have a look on my channel. It's Tinuke's_orbit. You can find me on Instagram, and I'm going to be starting up a whole bunch of classes on there and teaching the world how to roller skate and just expressing that love and that joy.
Juliana Olayinka, reporting for Channels Television News in London.
Well, that's all for the program today. I'm Akaite Afia. Have a great evening and stay safe.